Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well, and I'm super excited about this week. This week on Just Music Podcast, I had the opportunity to sit down with Sean Daniel, and we got to talk about a lot of different topics. Now, if you don't know who Sean Daniel is a musician, a multi-instrumentalist, a singer-songwriter, a producer. He's just a guy that's got his hands in everything. He's a super cool guy, super down to earth, and it was super awesome to have him on the program. He now joins in progress. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Just Music Podcast. I'm super excited. I have an awesome guest on the podcast, and I couldn't be more excited. If you guys are, watching the online guitar community or you're checking out tutorials, I know for a fact you've definitely come across this man. He's a handsome gentleman. He's part of the Handsome Gentleman Club, and he's Mr. Sean Daniel, and I'm super excited to have him on the program. Welcome, Sean.
It's good to be here on behalf of all the handsome gentlemen out there.
So I have a list of questions that I wanted to discuss with Sean. We're going to just kind of get through as many topics as we can in the allotted amount of time that we have. But for some people that may not know who Sean is, can we get like kind of an origin story about, where you came from, how music started for you, and, just kind of give us some background about yourself.
Well, born of humble beginnings, just like anybody else, child of the Midwest. I didn't start playing guitar till I was like 17, I think. And I was like, oh, this is cool, something to pick up. And then I kind of really got into it in college, where I got my communications degree, which has been super valuable, communications degree. And then honestly, I just kind of like stuck with it. And then I was just doing a lot of music stuff. And I put my hours in. I worked at Guitar Center, worked at like a recording studio. And then I moved down to Florida and I was teaching a lot. And I was always kind of, making music and trying to like produce stuff. And right. I did this album with my buddy Andres, who's like another kind of YouTuber I have on my channel a lot. And we were super proud of it. And we thought it turned out really well. It was the first thing I did that I thought sounded pretty good. Mm-hmm. But we made it on some local radio, which is pretty great timing, I know. But it didn't do anything else after that. So I was like, all right, well, I'm confident enough that this is like good. It's just I have no audience at all. Right. So at that point, this was maybe like 5 years ago. Okay. I was like, maybe I'll make some YouTube videos and whatever, because I had a bunch of students that I was teaching. I had maybe like 25, 30 students that I was teaching guitar to a week. And it'd be cool to kind of get like visual stuff to like supplement what I was doing with them. Mm-hmm. And then my goal was to get like 200 followers. I was like, if I can get 200 subscribers, like I'm going to be set. Be getting Gucci purses, whatever. And then it just kind of took off, and I had no idea that it was like such a thing because I didn't really watch a lot of YouTube at the time. But and it's been successful. So here we are today. Man, now it's the gig for sure.
That's awesome. I feel like I feel like in kind of in that same regard, because it's like you can teach students one-on-one. And you can essentially teach that same lesson that you taught to a group of 10 students, opposed to just making one video lesson, put it online, and then now you're reaching a wider audience where that 10 people, now it could be, hundreds of thousands of people that come across it.
And this is better for your soul too. Because like teaching the same lesson over and over again, I remember because I would teach like every day, 7 days a week, right? Yeah. Some days I just would not have my A game. I'd be like, I'd roll on in, this kid's there, they're giving me nothing, and I'm like, all right. And then I just go into like my mind. It's like we're doing a blues lesson today that I've taught like 100 times, and then it just goes on autopilot. Right. So to be able to do that on video and then be able to reference that just is so much better than having to go.
Especially if you're just like teaching like the same A minor pentatonic blues licks all day long.
It's funny how it works though, because literally it's like autopilot.
Right.
All right, 12 bar blues, 9-year-old girl, here it comes, pay attention. And then I just leave my body and come back. And then they know the 12 bar blues.
Right. Well, cool. Cool, man. So transitioning into what we're kind of experiencing as a global issue, and answer this into what you're doing currently, but what do you think, how all these musicians are struggling, and, how are they being creative with their stream incomes? Because I know for you, you're constantly gigging, and I would imagine that a good majority of those gigs are now probably canceled for, the foreseeable future until we get it clear. So what are you doing in terms of this, and, what do you think musicians can take away from this?
Well, I'm lucky enough where, I definitely do gig a lot. but it's not like my main source of income.
Sure.
You know? Like, so it's, you know, money's down, but I can't really complain. Like, I'm still surviving pretty well.
Right.
You know, a lot of musicians are not, you know, so I'm lucky enough where I can kind of put my efforts into everything. Like, I've been pretty much uploading daily to YouTube since the whole thing started. And then I've been doing kind of like side projects, like just trying to get stuff ready for future releases and stuff, trying to be productive. But it definitely is, it wears on you.
Yeah.
You know, because you get used to playing out. And, you know, like when I would do it, we'd play these 3-4 hour shows. Usually me and my girl Kindred would be like the main show that I would play. And I've forgotten all those songs. Like it's only been 4 weeks, but I've forgotten like 100 songs. And I just trying to stay sharp, but it's definitely a challenge. So I see a lot of people like streaming live on stuff. And that's cool. And, you know, I've done it a few times, and it's always just devolved into me playing acoustic guitar and kazoo covers.
Yes.
Which is interesting. Which, my last one got taken down because I did Hotel California on the kazoo.
Copyright.
Shut it down, which is so funny to me, but I mean, whatever.
So you know, what's funny is I know you always talk about how you always get these Loveful requests. I have to say that's always me.
Oh, is it always you every time? Because I'm like, Loveful again. That's the one consistent.
It's always me, man. I don't know. Okay. So, you're originally from the Midwest, so you're familiar with Meijer. So Meijer is a huge grocery chain, kind of like the Walmart, but in the Midwest. And I used to work at Meijer before I was fully doing music full time, and that song would come on the overplay the overhead all the time, and I'm like, God, not this Loveful again. And it always came to that, and I was like, that was that song where I just always got really angry, and I was just like, I don't want to hear it anymore because you just hear it all the time. Of course, and then I saw the cover that you and Kindred did, and then I was like, oh, okay, I kind of like this song again.
It's a fun song to play. It's probably like the most fun song to play of all the covers that I do. So I'm always down to play Loveful. It's good to know that it's you. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned like live streaming. I noticed that you did a collaboration with I'm going to do a bunch of huge name drops here. I know you did it with like Samurai Guitarist, Davidas, Ian Stitch. I'm going to miss some people here. Andreas, I'm probably missing a couple of people. But as far as how did that work? Because I know this is like this new territory where it's like we're so used to being able to collaborate in person, and it's cool that we have technology that we can kind of eliminate that barrier where if we can't be in person face to face, we can still create even though, you know, we can't be in person.
Yeah, it's great. But it's also a curse because you already have the fragile egos and work ethic of your average musician.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's like working against you twofold because you're trying to like spearhead a project where, like in the old days, I could just grab Kindred and bring her into the studio and make her do something.
Right.
But like being like, hey, can you record video and audio for me and like send it to me? It's like, okay, great.
Right.
Good luck with everything.
Right.
So the great thing is like, yeah, even like a regular kind of standard iPhone is good enough audio quality to like do something like that. It's really cool. So it's something that I think just helps to keep sane, to kind of give projects to do and to kind of pull together. But and I've seen like a lot of heavy hitters do stuff like that too, which is super cool. But you know, I don't know. I guess this is where we're at with the technology that it can facilitate something like that.
Right. Well, what do you think as far as like? I mean, I don't know. I know there's all these suggestive numbers on how long this whole issue could last. As far as like from a musical standpoint and musicians, I mean, obviously for people who are in the creative space, you know, a lot of the times those are gig workers where you don't get paid unless you're doing the work, you know. Right. So for them, and I'm just curious, I mean, like what do you think the long-term, you know, implications could be if this just continues to go on? Like, I mean, obviously people are going to have to start being creative with different income streams because of, you know, losing work. Yeah,
100%. I think it's going to pretty closely reflect how restaurants bounce back because I think they're so intertwined in like the fabric of like going out and like having an experience. And again, restaurants employ like I would say, especially in Sarasota where I live, the majority of the musicians it's always at a restaurant or a bar, someplace that serves food.
Right.
You know, I think that's going to be kind of like the first barometer of kind of checking how the economy comes back with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the festivals and the bigger shows are definitely going to lag further behind that.
Right.
Just because it seems like the way they're going to start reopening certain economies is going to be more on the local kind of like smallish gathering of like under 100 people, where musicians will kind of be able to get back out there.
Right.
But I definitely think like the festival circuit, I don't even know when that's gonna.
Yeah.
Well, but also in my experience, that's like an entirely different kind of community of musicians. It's kind of funny how they fall into like pockets,
Yeah. It's interesting because I know like in specifically, like, I mean, I've been to Florida multiple times, but not specifically to your area. But I just know from experiences, a big majority of that music is based in like restaurant type venues. Yeah. And like here, I mean, there's kind of that thing in this coffee shops, but it's less, it's not as dense as it would be in like a Florida. And I know like Florida being a huge, like touristy area, and like this just comes at such a crappy time because it's like, on the brink of like summer too.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would be so much better. I mean, I know you can't plan for these types of things, but it'd be so much better if this was a thing that like happened in the winter time, especially here because we got snow outside right now.
Of course, yeah, right. I saw that. Some people have been Snapchatting me. I'm like, you kidding me?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The other day we had, like 60-degree weather, and I was out riding my electric skateboard downtown, and then all of a sudden snow.
Bro, that's why I bounced. As soon as I graduated college, I was like, peace out, Michigan.
Oh, man. So you're originally from Michigan, aren't you?
I was born in Chicago, but I moved to Michigan my freshman year of high school.
Oh, okay.
So I went to Grand Haven High School.
Oh, okay. Familiar.
Yeah, graduated there. Then I went to Western Michigan for 2 years, and then graduated at Grand Valley State.
Oh, okay. My uncle went to Western. I'm actually working on well, now everything is being postponed, but I'm working on my master's at Central in music and guitar. Anyway, yeah, this is super cool. So I just want to talk about I know from watching your channel a lot, and I really, really do enjoy the content, because when I watch your channel, not only do I get guitar-related content and I walk away with something, a new musical idea, but I always come out with a piece of comedy, and I'm like, that just cracks me up. Like all the little bits that you have, like Salty Blues comment and all that stuff just cracks me up.
That's the hardest part of the channel, by the way. It's coming up with like the intro jokes and stuff. Without question, that's the hardest part. But
as far as like, your main musical influence, I know you said that you started, started playing music and getting really serious about it and around like, late high school or whatever, which is super cool, because I think there's always this common misconception that, you have to start out young to play music, or you have to come from a musical family. And I think that's total crap. It's just a crock.
Yeah, 100%.
And so that's cool to hear that, because, that's just like, I have a lot of respect for you, and I value your musicality and your musicianship. So like when I see that, I'm like, okay, well, for other people that are watching and listening, it's doable. You don't have to be, 6 years old,
Oh yeah, no, thank you. And I distinctly remember like when I was first starting, I think I was 17 when I first like picked up a guitar. I was like, am I even allowed to do this? Like, it was not on my radar in any facet that it was something that I could even learn. It's like, I always thought like, oh, that's something that like other people do.
Right.
Like if you're from a family or something like that. So,
right.
Yeah, but it's easy. Anybody can do it.
Yeah. I agree. I think there's just this common, misconception. And it's just like, just as humans in general, there's so many things that you can do and you can accomplish. I mean, you have to work your butt off to be good at something.
Sure.
But that's like a living example. Like when I look at you and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool.
The great thing about music too is like, you don't even have to be like good at it. Like you just have to reach like a baseline threshold of being adequate, and then just like lend your own voice to it, and it can become a thing.
Right. And I think that's what separates a lot of musicians from other musicians. There's musicians that are technically like insanely great. But like, you can throw out like all these guys, like I know there's always going to be hate on this, but like, Steve Vai, all those guys, they're great players, right? Don't get me wrong. But like for me, I just don't get as much emotion out of it, or the raw feelings that I get out of like when I listen to like Hendrix
Totally. Yeah.
Because it's just so totally, it's just like, he's so technically great. And it's just like, where's the human flaw in it, you know?
Sure. Yeah. And it doesn't connect the same. I was talking to Samurai about this the other day, actually. Like, we are both of the same mindset that we're not like guitar players, because like guys who love, you know, the Steve Vai, Satriani, like that kind of thing, usually they're kind of guitar players geeking out because they just like love the pursuit of guitar stuff.
Right.
I'm not even super into that. That's more like songwriting, kind of like making a connection, like you said.
Right.
Why Hendrix is just like the best, because it's just wild.
I agree. I think, and it just sucks that like, and I was talking to some students the other day about this, and it's like, guitar players are just the worst in this regard, because it's like, you can recognize when, like, you know, I don't know, a piano player is great, but piano players don't just sit down and be like, oh, that piano player is trash. What are you talking about? Like, it's like, why is that? It's just like music in the guitar realm is like such a sport. It's a blood sport almost.
It truly is. The Ultimate Guitar like forum is the worst place on earth. It's like way worse than like Reddit or any place like that. Ultimate Guitar is like the combination of the worst people you will ever meet in your life.
And I just don't understand. It's just like this total ego and arrogance that just comes from these guitar players. And it's just like, you know, why don't you guys just think about, you know, why you really stepped into doing music? Why did you want to do it? Because you wanted to play your favorite songs. You wanted to be expressive. You wanted to create, you know, so why are you making it a sport?
It's so funny. It like is the ultimate in reflection of human nature.
I know.
Because like there's so many distractions of what you like, you know, there's the whole gear community.
Oh, I know. Which
is like another trip in and of itself. And it's like the last thing you actually will end up doing on guitar is playing music with it.
Right.
You're basically just arguing with other people about who's better, who sucks, and then, like judging people on the gear they use and crap like that.
And it's really quite you should be, people that are like that, it's kind of shameful, because it's just like, again, like you take this expressive art form and it's like, I can't think of like, did painters ever poo-poo on another painter? Like, oh, Van Gogh, you suck. Like, you know, I mean, maybe they did. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, he's using the Venetian watercolor.
Yeah, right. Like, what's wrong with him? Like, oh man, yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that, just like gear too. Like you'll see there's some incredible gear out there that's like, you know, not well known. You know, maybe just like, I don't know, not as in the limelight. Like everybody knows Boss, right? So everyone's like, oh, you have the Boss pedal. You know, Boss pedals are expensive as heck. But then, you know, you can use a way cheaper alternative product that's just as good, if not better. But you could get, you know, chastised for it. You're like, what are you?
Dude, you have no idea. It has permeated my brain on such a subconscious level. This morning, I'm watching a Vampire Weekend music video, right? And I'm like, Ezra Kenning, why is he playing an Epiphone? That was the thought I had. It was like the A-Punk music video or whatever. I'm like, an Epiphone? Like, come on, bro. It's like, and then I'm like, who am I? Then like, then the music video goes dark and I see my reflection in the laptop. It's just like, what have I become?
Oh man, it's hard though, because it's so encompassing around you and your thoughts that even if you're trying not to directly think about it, you're being influenced just because you read the threads or the comments.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's too much.
Yeah. So great, man. Okay, so like we kind of talked about so you're influenced by Jimi Hendrix, but like was there like a coming to you know, guitar moment, or like was there a song or a track, or you saw a video and you're like, you saw it and you were like, I want to do that? Or what was like your main desire to pick up the guitar and say, I'm going to, you know, fulfill this and do this?
Definitely Hendrix. It was 100% Hendrix. I think someone did like a school project. I was like, oh, that's cool. So then I went and listened to music, and that was like about the same time that I got my first Squire electric guitar. Like that was the stuff that, and then I remember I played for like, I don't know, maybe 8 months. Then I was like, all right, I'm going to learn Little Wing. And I like printed out the tabs because they made no sense. Like if you don't see the chord shapes behind what he's using, like a tab is just like going to blow your mind.
Right.
Because it's like he changes strings and there's all these dyads and stuff like that.
Right.
So, I just like hit the woodshed, which is not like me. You know what I mean? Like I have no discipline at all. Like I just kind of like tool around until I just become good at something. But I actually made a concentrated effort to learn Little Wing. And then it's funny, that's the only time I ever did that with his stuff. But then I really went into Elliott Smith's stuff. And I think that's what kind of made me like a adequate guitar player, was learning like trying to play Elliott Smith stuff kind of right.
Right.
It's like the man.
It's so interesting because you see like all these videos on people that are trying to be so much like copycat of their, you know, person who they aspire to be. Like I don't know what it is, but like with John Mayer, for example, there's so many videos on John Mayer of people trying to like copy exactly like he's doing, like more than I have come across like any other guitar player. I don't know if that's just because he's like, you know, the younger good guitar player in our generation. I don't really know what the deal is with that, but it's just like, for me going into music, like, yeah, it's nice to play that stuff, but I don't want to sit down for hours at a time and learn somebody else's music. Like, yeah, it's fun. I'll cover it. Don't get me wrong. But like, if you're in this creative space, for me, it's about creating and learning these things. And how can I put my own spin on it? You know?
100% agree with you. It's funny that there are two different schools of thought on that. Like, to me, they're just songs, and a song is essentially just kind of a chord progression with words.
Right.
You know, however you interpret that.
Right.
Way. Which, yeah, the comments that I get is like, oh, you totally played that song wrong. I'm like,
Right.
oh, did I? Oh, obviously. Do you think that I think I'm playing it like I hear it? Like, of course I played it wrong. But yeah, you're definitely right about John Mayer. And the amount of people, you know, my mini rant on that is, why do people think Neon is such a great song? Like, Neon is clearly, like, it was weird. It's like an adult contemporary radio song written by a dude who's like 19 years old. But like, somehow it's become like the John Mayer song to play.
Right.
For unknown, because I guess like the E strings tuned down like 2 steps or something.
Yeah.
I don't really even know, to be honest. But like, there's like a mini like underground guitar community thing. It's like, oh, can you play Neon? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's so funny because you're right. It's like, you'll see, oh man, I mean, sometimes like you'll come across these videos where someone's playing really, really awesome stuff really well or whatever. They do this good cover or whatever, and it's great. And then someone will hit up the comments and say, oh, cool, but can you play? Then they'll throw like the Eddie Van Halen and they'll say, can you play Eruption? And it's like, why do you have to be disrespectful? Like, can you play what he just played or what she just played? Like, and it's like, it's those types of people that I see on those comments that probably don't play or have no concept of music in general.
What a selfish thing to say.
I know.
Play this thing that I want you to play. But it's not like a request. It's not like, hey, I'd really like if you tried this.
Right.
It's like, no, it's like, can you do this?
Right.
Like a measuring stick thing. It's like,
it's
no.
It's directly trying to just undermine that person's ability or their skill set, I guess. And it's too bad because like I said, I only see that on guitar related content. I never ever see that on anything else. No other instrument.
I do wonder that. I wonder if part of that is just because it's a guitar thing, or if part of that is like I'm just not immersed in the world of jazz piano. Because like it's kind of entertaining to me think of like classical musicians ripping on each other. Like that's great. You know, It's true, but I don't know if that's true or not.
So, well, actually, my undergrad is in classical guitar. So my master's that I've been working on is also in classical guitar. And for them, a lot of the students, they kind of do have that, you know, mentality, but it's not as bad as blues or rock players.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's just like for me, when I deal with other classical guitar players, it's all about helping each other out. Oh, see, you did this phrase wrong here. Let me help you. That's more, I've never come across another person that will cut you down like they do in these other facets of guitar music. And it's just insane to me.
I guess that's good to hear for sure.
But yeah. Now, I know that you've been doing the YouTube thing for a while too, in just the creative space, and it's super cool to watch you, because I remember watching when your videos first came out, and then like just the progression of time, like not only just in your video quality and your production, not that it was ever bad, but
sure,
just the progress that comes through that, and your musicality too. So that's super, super cool, and I love to see that, and I witnessed that firsthand.
That's so cool, man, that you've been on the train for that long.
Yeah, it's super, super cool. What would you say as far as like advice, or just anybody who wants to get out in the creative space, and now that people have more time to, you know, kind of experiment and, you know, maybe test the waters with like, you know, trying to, you do more YouTube stuff, because I know obviously people are off of work. So my watch time on my videos have shot up like an insane amount. So what would you say as far as your advice to individuals who may want to try to give this a shot or try to step out in the limelight, where they might be kind of nervous or apprehensive about putting stuff out there because they know they don't want to get backlash from these said angry guitar players?
Yeah, I think the thing is just to have a goal and just do it, and don't worry about being a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one thing that a lot of my friends I know holds them back, because I think just being a musician, like, there's a fine line between being a perfectionist, just never getting anything out, and then just putting your best effort into something. Like, I don't want to advocate for like just half-assing some kind of slog that you just put up on YouTube, but at the same time, I think people really like overthink it a lot, and I think always you'll be just glad that you did it. But in the same vein, not to like have any expectations of how it's going to perform, because like I've got, like for the guitar community, I guess like a pretty big channel, and like the way that like my videos perform is like wildly different from video to video, So I think to remove any expectations of what people are going to think about it, kind of like what you said with getting hated on by the guitar community.
Yeah, right.
Odds are it probably isn't going to reach those people anyway. Like, if you're more likely to reach the people in the same vein of that'll be interested in the thing that you're trying to put out.
Right.
So just to do it, just forget about what people are going to think about it. Do it for you. Put up something that you want to be proud of. And then the worst case scenario is you just have like kind of an internet backup of what you were working on at the time, to kind of remember this time that we're all kind of stuck in right now.
Right. Right. I think, go ahead.
No, I just said that's what's cool about like, since I have videos that are so old, is like I can look back at an old video and see how my musicianship has changed, like for sure. I'm like, wow, like I really kind of sucked back then. I mean, and I'm like, obviously that's like a strong, like I could always like I was fine, but it's just cool to kind of have those measuring sticks,
right?
Because a lot of people think that they get into ruts or they're plateauing, but it's hard to always see the progress. So just being able to have that stuff in the backlog to look on is like something that I feel good about now.
Right. Yeah, and it's almost like a memento of each, of your playing. If you're thinking about milestones, it is super cool when you do that and you look at that. And for me, it's like it's a measuring tool, because it's like, wow, this is where I am. Here I started, and now here I am, and I have this much more to. It's just cool to think of it that way. Yeah. Super, super awesome.
Right
okay.
On.
So I don't want to waste too much more of your time, because I'm not sure, how much time that you're allowing me to interview you, which is super, super cool. Do you have any, upcoming projects that you're working on that we should be on the lookout for? I know you were just doing stuff for the Emerald Riders, and I'll have all those links down in the description.
Yes. So a couple things. I'm retracking the cartoon album. I made like 3 years, whenever, I don't even know how long ago that was, but kind of like just what we were talking about is I animated this whole stupid album that I did. And the funny thing is, like, I suck at animating, but it took me forever to do. And I went back and I rewatched part of it, and I was like, I feel like I could do a way better job musically. So almost to like totally counter what we just talked about, I do want to try to do those songs again, just to see how much better I could make them, kind of like now, and like revisit a lot of them. So the spare time that I have now is spent kind of retracking a lot of those things to maybe re-release the cartoon or whatever, or do some new videos on there. And then also working on Emerald Rider stuff too. Definitely want to do a follow. I kind of want that to be, for people who've never heard of this, it's like this kind of whack-ass Celtic fusion, whatever type sound that I've been working on. And my buddy Pasha, who's an incredible violin player, he's been instrumental, like making those tracks come to life. So I think that's going to be something I want to always be coming out, like kind of like maybe like a track a month or something like that, to kind of keep going on that. And then just really just making as much music as I can and trying to get better at the whole craft of recording stuff, because that's like a total job, So.
Right. Huh. Any more Boss Bake videos?
Well, I can't.
You can't leave. Yeah, I know.
Andrea. Oh, so yeah, my friend Andrea, we have a cooking show called Boss Bakes. where we just suck at cooking. We still have yet to get better at that, at anything. But yeah, she's in town because usually she's at college, you know. But we're not allowed to hang out, so.
Right.
And I can't do a solo Boss Bakes video. That would just be wrong. You know.
Hey, Sean here, back with Boss Bakes by myself.
Maybe I should do that actually.
Hey man, definitely if it's on a live stream or something, do it in real time.
Oh my God, that's all right. That's actually a good idea.
I would love to see that. And then you'd have people be playing while it's baking or whatever it's cooking up. Play Love Fool while you're at it.
Oh, done. Love Fool kazoo cover while it's in the oven.
All right, Sean. So I got one last question for you here, and then we'll part ways. As far as what you would consider, your epitome of success, or something that you want to do in music, and whether that's collaborating with someone or meeting, some big musician. What would be that one thing, if you could be able to do, like, collaborate with some certain artist or meet Taylor Swift, for that example?
Shoot my shot with Taylor Swift.
Yeah, shoot the shot, man.
Yeah, aside from that, which should be everyone's, I'd like to eventually do some kind of tour, for
Nice.
sure. Even if it's like a support thing, like it doesn't have to be big or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've played the local and like a lot of Florida stuff. I think that'd be kind of fun just to do once.
Right.
I'm definitely not looking to fold that into like career-wise to be a career touring musician.
Right.
Do like one, just kind of, I don't know, maybe pseudo international tour. I think would be pretty cool to kind of have under my belt.
Right. Yeah, that would always be, excuse me, that would be, I would imagine, be a really, really cool thing. But the guys that do that, like, all the time, I would imagine it gets pretty tiring, or, you get sick of it.
I think I'm really good friends with the group Voice Avenue. Heard of them? They're like YouTube OGs. They've got like 14 million. So those are like my guys. Like we hang out all the time. And just like, and they do like Thailand, all this stuff. Like they go all over the world.
Uh-huh.
And it seems exhausting, like incredibly exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
That having that be like your full-time gig doesn't seem like something I don't know. But one time, I'd like to do it one time.
Oh, also, there was I posted about people. I said that I was going to do this kind of on the DL, and there was some questions. And I'm going to pick one question because this is an overwhelming question. And this is the last question. What is your trick, or how is it that you work with all of these beautiful women? I don't know why, but that was the question. That was like, I had lots of questions, but that was like overwhelmingly the majority question. So what's the trick?
Man, I think it's just that's a good question. You have to ask the girls, honestly. I can pull them. I don't know. You know what? Confidence, man. That's what it is. It comes down to confidence.
So funny.
Whether it's musical collaborations with the fair sex, whether it's anything, it's all about confidence and believe in yourself when you shoot your shot, and it's going to go in more often than not.
Well, I will make sure that I remember that, and that all of the viewers do too.
Yeah, believe in yourself. Shoot the shot respectfully. I think that's the key thing.
Right.
You don't want to come off as like a creep.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Shoot the shot.
All right, Sean. Well, I'd like to thank you for being on the Just Music podcast. It was super exciting. I know we've kind of shared some conversations back and forth on Instagram a little bit, but this is the first time to have this kind of interaction. So I definitely appreciate this. And to all the viewers out there, I'll have all of Sean's medias in the description. Check out his album and his channel. I'm sure you already have a good understanding of who he is. He's a great person, funny, and I love watching him. So thanks a lot, Sean. Thanks for being here, man.
Happy to be here.
Alright guys, that was the video. I hope you liked it. I want to give a big thanks and shout out to Sean for being such a great sport and being on my podcast. And also, if you know any musicians or anybody in the creative space that's interested in being on the Just Music podcast, hit me up. I'd really like to have some other guests on it. You can follow me on all my social medias down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.